This is the City of Waupaca's City Plan Commission meeting.
All right, let's get started here. We have a public hearing that we need to take care of first. And so, let me get that up here if I can. So welcome everybody to tonight's meetings. This is a public hearing for a zoning change at the Waupaca Foundry Incorporated northeast corner of Tower Road and Royalton Street. In attendance, we have Commissioners Lesage, Olson, Wayne, Mayor Brian Smith, Justin Behrens, Pat Fair, and Henry Veliker. Then we also have staff with us. Jared, if you want to just let us know what this is all about, please.
Of course. Thank you, Mayor. This is an extension of a previous item that had come forward to the council and I believe the Plan Commission as well, looking at a comprehensive plan amendment and a certified survey map to section off this parcel specifically. So the Foundry is looking at doing a potential housing development program or development as such. They were looking for the sectioning off of part of their larger parcel on Brunner Drive. That has been completed. It has been recorded and all made official. It is a separate parcel. Now they are looking to rezone that parcel from I-2 to a zoning district, specifically B3, to accommodate multifamily development. Multifamily is a permitted use in the B3 district, so moving forward, if this is approved, they would be needing to come through with a site plan and any necessary requirements with that, and that would be their final approval for the development. Happy to take any questions when that time comes.
All right. Well, thank you, Jared. So again, as I said, this is a public hearing, so anybody that would like to give testimony in favor of this zoning change, please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and limit your time at the podium to 3 minutes or less. Anybody that would like to give testimony in favor? Hearing none, we'll take testimony in opposition. Is there any testimony in opposition to this zoning change? All right. Hearing none, again, right before I close this public hearing, just want to remind everybody that we will be talking about this during the regular agenda tonight. So I'll close this public hearing at 5:19 p.m. All right, next up, we have our regular scheduled City Planning Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022, and we're going to begin this meeting at 5:19 p.m. In attendance, we have Commissioners Veliker, Fair, Public Works Director, who's also Commissioner Justin Behrens, Mayor Brian Smith, Ivan Wayne, Eric Olson, and Angela Lesage. And then we have staff, Jarrett Raku, Aaron Jensen, and we also have our city attorney tonight, Steve Sorensen. Steve, thank you. All right, so you have an agenda in front of you. There is a handout. Jarrett, you want to just explain what that handout is that's on their desk?
Yes, of course. So this is in relation to item 3D, site plan review, Fable Lease LLC, 251 Grand Seasons Drive. After the packet was sent out, I did sit down with the applicant. We did go over some of the elements that were discussed at our previous Plan Commission meeting, that the owner was just looking to see if some leeway could be given or, some things could be changed in the conditions. We did sit down, go over those items. He is in the audience tonight if he does have any questions or comments towards that. But we did sit down, go into agreement on what would be required and why, including justification. So those handouts, one is a crude drawing, my artistic abilities, to show generally what's being required, the different areas needing to be paved, landscaping, screening, things like that. And then the other handout is an updated conditions list. So there were conditions, and it didn't print my page on the back.
It's got the conclusion down here.
Yes, so I'm missing half the conditions. So when that time comes, I guess I will just need to read those off to you and make sure you guys are aware. It did not print.
So there's more conditions than the 4?
Yes, there are more conditions than just the 4. I do apologize about that.
Okay.
But that would be the gist of the handout.
All right. Thank you, Jarrett. So what we'd be looking for then at this time is the approval of the agenda with that one additional handout.
So move for approval with the addition.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Eric, that we approve the agenda with that one addition. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. We have, did those get on the website, the minutes?
The minutes are not ready. They will be at our next
Okay.
meeting.
So number 2, we're gonna just bypass here then? Okay. Next up then, we have action items. We have a zoning change, which we just had the public hearing for the Waupaca Foundry Incorporated for the northeast corner of Tower Road and Royalton Street. And the parcel numbers are listed on there. And Jared, I'm gonna just turn it over to you again.
Of course, thank you, Mayor. So this item does start on page 2 of your packets. The request is to rezone a parcel off of Royalton and Tower, which was formerly part of the Waupaca Foundry Brunner Drive site, to B3 to accommodate a potential future multifamily development. Happy to take any questions. Otherwise, that is the gist of it. They did already go through a certified survey map to section off the property as previously discussed. And the property being sectioned off was compliant. And now they're just looking to rezone it to B3.
So, thanks, Jared. And Rob Johnson from the Foundry is in the audience tonight, so if you have any questions of him, you certainly have the opportunity to do that at this time.
So Mayor, we if we move forward with this, we're recommending to council for the ordinance change. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then that has to go through 2 readings. Is that correct?
yes.
So it'd be sometime in late September, later September.
It could be the first meeting in September.
That's right. You have one later
Yeah.
this month.
Absolutely. And we already had the public hearing, so we do not need to have another public hearing in front of city council unless we choose to do that.
I just had one question, and I don't know, maybe it was on the application form, and Jared, maybe you could, there was a lot of changing of numbers and whatnot. Can you explain that? Is it parcel changed or just the information?
The information. So when it was submitted, the certified survey map was also going through. It was submitted at the same time. So instead of making them go through, a whole new application, we just changed to reflect what the parcel data is now that it has been recorded with the county. So the county would have recorded, the certified survey map that displays Lot 1, CSM version 35, certified survey number 8103. And then I just increased or put in the parcel number, the acreage of that parcel, just the updated information. So it's the same parcel that being discussed. It's just now the parcel can be fully identified.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion to recommend?
I'll make a motion to recommend to council.
Second. A motion by Ivan, second by Henry, that we recommend to council the zoning change for the Waupaca Foundry. And this will be in an ordinance form number 16-2022. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. Next up, we have the conditional use permit for Mount Tom LLC owner, Harmony Towers LLC and AT&T Mobility. And they're the applicant. This is on Bailey Street. Jared, I think, I mean, this is a holdover from our July meeting. But Jared, I'll let you set it up again for us.
Not a problem. No, like you said, this is a delayed action item from our July meeting, both the conditional use and the site plan. The Plan Commission and staff just wanted additional time to ensure we consult with our attorney and got you guys all of the accurate information to make your decision. So nothing has really changed with the application. The parcel was already subdivided for this potential land use. It is now coming forward the conditional use of the site plan for a new tower through the conditional use process. And let me read one item. Really, the one thing we're looking at, and this is per the recommendation from our attorney, which is here. He is here tonight, so if you have any specific questions for him, the main question is: does the commission believe that the tower company that has submitted the application has met their burden in showing that there's economic justification for the new tower, rather than putting equipment on an existing tower? So that is really the big question that's being asked and would need to be decided by you guys. The public hearing was already had, so we would not be having another one. Happy to take any questions. Otherwise, I would direct questions to Steve. We both have the applicants also out in the audience tonight.
Steve, do you have any comments at this time?
No, I mean, I read through all the materials that had been submitted and reviewed your meeting. And, we could go through it all over again, but I think to synthesize it down is exactly what I said. The question that seems to be the prevailing question is not whether this is properly located, because it is. Not whether this is, am I on live?
You are.
Okay.
Yep.
Not whether this is properly located, because it is in an area that would permit this under your ordinance, a conditional use permit, as long as all the conditions are met. And I've been informed by the staff that all the conditions as far as location, style, supports, all those engineering things that attorneys know nothing about have been met. So the real issue then gets down to be under the Wisconsin statute, under the federal law, there's a presumption that you should be locating or co-locating on an existing tower unless it's economically not feasible for you to locate on that tower. Now, there's a lot of words out there as far as what does it mean to be economically not feasible to locate on that tower. And the presumption is that they, in this case, AT&T, has the burden of establishing that it is not economic, or first of all, that they cannot locate on another tower, and if they can co-locate, but they decide not to co-locate, it has to be because it's not economically feasible to co-locate on that tower. That's why I sent the statement to you that your real issue tonight, I mean, you can cut through everything else, but that's the real issue that's before you tonight, because you've not done some of the things that other people have done and said, well, we aesthetically don't like towers, so we're not going to have them. You have to also remember the state of Wisconsin has taken an affirmative stance towards the expansion of this type of service. And you have to keep that in mind, that there is a strong presumption in the law as it exists in the state of Wisconsin right now towards the establishment of cellular towers. And that presumption says that there's a belief that if you're covering areas that are otherwise not covered, or you're providing better service to areas that are already covered, you are providing an economic strength to the state. And under Wisconsin law, that's that's recommended, if not supported highly by the policies of the state of Wisconsin. So that's why I basically said that I really think that what you have to decide is based upon the material that was presented to you at the last meeting, because obviously that was your public hearing. Are you able to determine whether or not there is a presentation by the applicant showing that it's not economically, I don't want to use the word economically feasible, but I want to use the word that it doesn't make good economic sense to continue or to look at co-location in order to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. And there is a statement in the materials that was provided that does address that statement, and they make the statement that they believe that it's economically not feasible for them to co-locate. And it's a little bit of a general statement. And that's why, again, the question is, do you believe as a committee that it's economically not in their best interest to co-locate? And as I read through it, there was reasons given such as coverage. There was reasons given such as ability to change at a quick notice and make corrections and service their products. I would also tell you there's case law out there to suggest that if the amount of rent is exorbitant, that's an economic feasibility. If you can build a tower cheaper than you can rent somebody else's space on a tower, there's case law to suggest that that's okay. Again, those are the kind of decisions and questions you should be posing and should be asking. It's not my decision to make. It's mine to tell you what the law is and what your basis is. And that is the law and the basis that, again, I could go through all the law, but we'd be here all night long. And I think most of the law has not been contested by SBA, I think their name is, that is contested the granting of this conditional use permit. I didn't see anyone else that was opposing the conditional use permit. But there were some letters and stuff, but that's up to you as a board to deal what you want to do. And I'm here to answer legal questions you might have.
Sounds good. Thank you, Steve, for that. Commissioners, anybody have any direct questions of Steve or Jarrett at this time? Henry, go ahead.
Yes, this is for Steve.
Henry, pull your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. For Steve, as I was thinking about this, I couldn't get this tower that was approved over a year ago on Churchill Street out of my mind. And I'm not sure how that plays into this because it doesn't really exist. We don't know. I'm sure there's details on how high it is. Is AT&T had an opportunity to talk with that tower owner? Are they going to build it? So I can't get that out of my mind. So the question to Steve is there any statutory time that approval by the city is no more? I mean, like, is it 2 years? Is it 6 years? Can the council rescind that?
Well, generally, your conditional use permits are only good for a year.
Okay.
I don't know how long it's been since you granted that. I don't know what the terms and conditions of that conditional use permit are. But if you grant a conditional use permit, the default is 1 year unless you say something differently. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it does. I think it weighs hugely in this. It makes maybe the decision easier because we don't have that proliferation of that tower in a commercial corridor. We're doing something where there's existing structures above the ground at the same location. So I don't know if that's something the other commissioners feel is important or not, but for me it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
So thank you.
I just wanted to confirm that was over a year ago.
Steve, I have just a question. When we listened to the public hearing, we heard both sides give their arguments, but there was also some discussion about the two of them working together on the existing tower. From your perspective, would a mediated sort of settlement might be more advantageous for the city than to look at trying to be the wisdom of Solomon here and try and decide who's better? I mean, as the mayor mentioned at our public hearing, we don't like to stand in the way of two business models. We're not business people. We like to hopefully do the best for the city. So what do you think of that idea of some kind of the two working together from the city's point of view?
The city doesn't have a provision in its ordinance that would allow you to do anything other than adjourn the meeting again. if you know what I mean. You can't order them to go, but go back to the Sunday school room and talk about it. You can't do that. You have to make a decision. Now, if the parties would say to you, we'd like to postpone this for 30 days, 60 days in order to, discuss possibilities or discuss alternatives or something of that nature, you certainly as a board would have the right, or as a commission would have the right to say, okay, we'll give you that time period to do that. But you on your own can't say, we're going to wait till you guys get along in order to make this decision. The applicant has a right to have a decision made, and you really have a duty as a commission that if they don't ask you to make a decision one way or the other.
Thank you.
So, hold on, Jonathan. So we've had two questions from the commissioners that went to either Steve or to Jared in that matter. But I think, so Jonathan is representing the applicant and Claude is representing SBA. So Jonathan, and I'm only asking you on these two questions that they've asked so far, if you'd like to respond to either one of those questions.
First question, I'll go in reverse order because that's how I remember.
Can I ask you from a legal perspective,
Yes.
would you state your full name and your position? I know everybody knows him, but I like a complete record.
Sure. My name is Jonathan Lujak. I'm an attorney with Michael Best and Friedrich in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we represent Harmony Towers. And I'll answer those two quick questions, but I do have one quick question for Steve, so I just wanted to call that out.
Does it have anything to do with these two questions?
We can revert back to my note to Steve, so I'll address these two first.
Okay, thank you.
So with respect to your question, would AT&T entertain adjournment to try to renegotiate the terms of the lease? No, they wouldn't. And I think for context, AT&T sent a letter to SBA by the terms of the lease back in March of 21, recognizing that its term was going to expire soon and it would need to extend or look for alternative space. In that letter, AT&T noted that the terms of the lease were frankly not market, and AT&T did not get a response to that letter. I believe the timeline was 60 days. At that point, they began exploring this relationship with Harmony, and up until SBA's representative attending last meeting, I'm not aware of any further negotiations. And then can you remind me of your question again?
Well, there was a tower approved on Churchill Street, and it seems to me it would be within your radius of a mile or something. Again, I didn't know the rationale for the mile, but there is a tower the city's already approved, and co-location is a goal. Have you discussed with that applicant or?
I don't believe AT&T has had discussions with them. By its nature, it was noted that the conditional use permit for that tower has expired, so it would have to go through the application process again. And further, I do not believe, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but that particular location is feasible and within the search ring for AT&T to shift its operations there. Much of these towers, so this particular equipment has what's known as FirstNet, which is an emergency first responder service, and provides the ability for first responders to essentially supersede the general network. And AT&T's equipment is also getting booted up for 5G. And based on that type of technology, it requires closer locations with respect to other existing towers. So I don't believe that new tower location would function.
All right. I know you have a question for Steve, but I still want to give Claude the ability to answer the two questions. So, Claude, and again, I think Steve probably wants you to give.
I'll give you my name, and my name is Claude Krafchek. I'm an attorney with O'Neill, Cannon, Holman, DeYoung, and Lang in Milwaukee. I represent SBA Communications, and I'm happy to provide Steve my card. Although we've talked to each other, he knows who I am. Haven't worked with Steve before this, but he seems like a good guy. But I think he's wrong about the case law on economically burdensome. The state statute, section 66, 0404, sub 2, sub B, sub 6, requires that an applicant submit a sworn statement from an individual who has responsibility over the placement of the mobile service support structure, attesting that co-location within the applicant's search ring would not result in the same mobile service functionality, coverage, and capacity is technically infeasible or is economically burdensome to the mobile service provider. I would remind you that the city of Waupaca has adopted that language word for word in its own ordinance, section 17.306. AT&T is already co-located on SBA's tower. They have been for 18 years or 20 years now. This tower was originally owned and built by the city of Waupaca. SBA purchased it from the city of Waupaca. The new tower that they're proposing is only 100 feet away. They have not provided the evidence that there's not functional equivalence to this. And it's frankly an impossible argument to make that putting a tower 100 feet away is going to provide some higher level of coverage than you don't have today. Regarding this economic burdensome language, this statute is relatively new as far as law goes. It was adopted in 2013 by the state of Wisconsin. There is very little case law on it. Mr. Sorensen said there was much case law on the term economically burdensome. There's not. There's one case in the state of Wisconsin, one case and one case only that interprets that provision. And in that case, the town of Cedarburg denied a new tower for T-Mobile when T-Mobile was already located on a existing water tank owned by the village of Grafton. And let me just read you this sentence. In the opinion, the one and only discussion of this provision in case law, the fact that T-Mobile wants to save money, in this case AT&T, and the fact that EcoSite wants to make money, in this case Harmony, is not a legitimate reason to override zoning regulations. That's what you've got here. That is the only case law in the state of Wisconsin interpreting this provision. So I would beg to differ that there is much law out there that says just because they can get a better deal from Harmony means they are exempt from co-location requirements. This is the public policy of the state of Wisconsin, has been for 35 years. It's codified in the Wisconsin statutes, and it's codified in your own zoning ordinance. So the question to me is, why would AT&T need a new site for functionality purposes? There is no functionality purpose for this. It's all about the fact that they cut a better deal with Harmony, and good for them. But we are willing to address the other question. We are willing to talk to them and have been willing to talk to them and have done amendments with them in the past. So, there is a real big public policy issue here. And what's to stop AT&T from coming back 10 years from now and building a new tower?
I'm going to stop you because you're giving a presentation. Right. And you were just supposed to answer the two questions.
I've answered the two questions. We're willing to talk. I don't think the Churchill Street Tower has anything to do with this one. This is 100 feet away. So that part I don't think has any bearing here, but we are willing to talk. And I disagree with Attorney Sorensen's statement that there's much case law about economically burdensome in the state of Wisconsin. I would like to submit the documents that I provided on July 18th that did not get into your packet today. So I have 8 hard copies.
You should note they are part of the record as of July 18th. They were at the last meeting.
But they were not part of your packet that was available online. So I don't know how many of you saw them.
We do not need to include every single thing in the packet. They were emailed to the council members before the last meeting and also before this meeting.
And just to keep the record, commission members.
Commission and council were sent to all. So good correction.
But now you have hard copies that you feel free to take with you.
Thank you. Steve, you want to respond?
Well, first of all, I never said case law in Wisconsin. I said case law. The concept of economic feasibility and economic interference is there's other states that have dealt with that question, and there's other cases out there that you can read. I mean, that's what I did. Yes, you're right. Wisconsin doesn't have much law at all on this because it's a relatively new statute of the state of Wisconsin, and probably because there hasn't been much of an issue because everybody wants a tower in Wisconsin right now. But I don't know the whole reason there hasn't been. But I will tell you that there's other states that have, and I'm sure you're aware of those states that have made that decision that have that. The other thing is you cite the Cedarburg case, which was talking about rezoning and overriding a zoning law. What you have to understand is this is not overriding a zoning law. This is a permitted use, or it's a permitted use under conditions. So it's a conditional use in this district. We're not overriding any zoning laws. We're just applying our conditional uses to a use that is allowed as long as those conditions are made. So I really think that, again, I don't think I'm misrepresenting the law, the facts, or the case law. There's two issues. One is the economics, the other is the functionality issue. And I think that both of those were addressed, but that's up to you to decide, not me. I'm just defending my position and what I said.
Yep. Thanks, Steve. You wanted to ask that question?
Yeah, I just had a question/comment for you, Attorney Sorensen, and I'm happy that Claude just read that statute. Just if we could reorient the commission's focus on what the statute provides in terms of the requirements. So Section 660404 does two things. It sets forth the parameters upon which a municipality or political body can regulate mobile support structures, how high the tower can be, certain locations it can be placed. Doesn't seem like any of that is at issue. The other component that it addresses is what requirements that the application needs to include. So our application goes through each of the statutory requirements, and operatively, what the application must include under the statute is a sworn statement from an individual who has responsibility over the placement of the structure, attesting that co-location within the applicant's search ring would not result in the same mobile service functionality, coverage, and capacity. That's one component. Is technically infeasible or is economically burdensome. So only one of those three components needs to be addressed within the application to meet the statutory requirements. And the application that we submitted includes a sworn statement from Tim Brenner, who's the director of networking for AT&T, addressing each of those components. There's been a lot of attention and discussion about the economic burden. This commission does not need to find that economic burden necessarily exists. It merely needs to determine that one of those three components under the statute are satisfied in the application. And one other item that was submitted as part of the application package were those propagation maps, which show the difference in coverage. We've already talked about how the new tower will permit AT&T to freely upgrade and enhance the equipment that provides different functionality or capacity. With respect to the coverage, we provided Jared with maps that we would like to depict up here if we could. But I just wanted to reorient the commission's focus on what the standard of law is for this particular application.
And I'm going to correct you a little bit on that. You do have a right as a commission to determine whether that affidavit that was submitted is factual. I mean, just simply because it's there, you can certainly question what's being said as far as the economically burdensome. But once it's there and it's met, then somebody would have to bring evidence to the contrary. Otherwise, that would have to stand. So, and I think that's really what you're trying to say. But merely saying that it's economically burdensome in and of itself is not enough.
Agreed. And I just, again, like to point, though, that the statute operatively uses the word or. It's one of the conditions that must be satisfied. It's not.
That's exactly what I said.
Yep.
You can, functionality is one, burdensome is another, and providing the third one is the services. But those haven't been argued about.
Could I address that point?
No, not unless the chair calls on
I'm
me.
asking the chair.
Right, can I?
I did allow Jonathan to ask a question of Steve. So if you have a question.
Well, I'd like to
Steve.
address this question. There's specifically a mention of the affidavit from Tim Brenner. I invite you to take a look at it. There is no discussion about enhanced coverage. There is discussion about lease flexibility. That's what they talk about in the section under coverage and capacity. There's discussion about the amount of space that they're going to rent from Harmony, but there is no discussion about functional performance. There is nothing to address the idea that this is going to provide any better level of service than you have today. The next thing they talk about is co-location is technically infeasible. And then all they do is refer back to the prior section where they talk about this is a better lease for us. Then thirdly, they talk about the economic burden. That's two and a half pages. The others are a scant mention in here. There is no discussion and no demonstration that the existing site where they've been for 20 years will not continue to serve their needs. Granted, they may need to make some modifications to their existing system, but SBA has always been open to that. SBA has always allowed that. So, there is no functionality issue here. This is purely all about, do you want to allow two towers where one exists just because AT&T cut a better deal with Harmony?
Thank you.
Can I ask our attorney a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Steve, if we choose, and this is just a hypothetical, if we choose to deny the applicant, and the applicant has, from their point of view, have followed all of the necessary, where does that leave the applicant? Are they able then to appeal that and come back to us at a later date with more information?
No.
Or how does that work?
No, if you would deny it, they would have the right to take it to the Board of Appeals because you've denied their application. You can always appeal the commission. And if that doesn't work, they can go to take it to circuit court. So they do have remedies if you don't. And of course, the remedy or what the discussion is, if you deny it, you're going to have to make findings that there's something inadequate about their application. You're going to have to put that on the record. You're going to have to say somewhere they failed to meet, they failed to show this, or they failed to show that. Because if you don't do that, we're automatically going to get it back at us because the Board of Appeals, is going to simply say, well, they made no findings. We can't make a decision. So you're going to have to make a finding either way.
Henry, go ahead.
If they submit something, if the applicant submits information after the original packet is received, is that considered official record? Because we've got some coverage maps, to be honest with you. I don't see the difference between the two maps, so maybe that needs to be addressed. But the question is what we got 2 days ago part of the official record here? Because they gave us some information saying coverages will be better. Here's some propagation maps to justify that. Or is this not official record? Because it's not part of their official submission.
That would be your call. And here's the logic behind that. You closed your open meeting, or your open meeting last time, okay? Your public hearing, rather. Yeah. You closed your public hearing at your last meeting, and then you were going to deliberate. Now, you have, as a commission, have the right to say, okay, we'll take some new stuff. That's your right. But if you don't, then you have to make it based on what you had at the last hearing. Now you can't possibly not take the arguments that have been submitted here today and disconcert those because those are in your head already. And it would be very difficult to argue that I didn't consider the information that was provided at the August 3rd meeting of the Plan Commission. But technically, unless the chair or you as a commission accepts new evidence, it's not part of the record. You have to accept it. The stuff that was part of the original application is absolutely part of the record. The stuff that was submitted at the open hearing is absolutely part of the record, but anything else would have to be accepted by the chair.
And a lot of those items were submitted to us before the previous meeting and sent out via email again. So they were submitted before the prior meeting. And they were also resubmitted again for just additional visualization through email.
Okay, good clarification. So if it was submitted previously, it is part of the record.
Well, it seems to me that we'd want to have it as part of the record. That's why. Okay.
Can I pause here just for a second and just ask commissioners, are you ready to make a decision here? And again, understand that this is a conditional use permit, so a conditional use permit is recommended to city council. So the next step is that it will go to city council after this, at the next meeting.
And also, with that note, you are on a shot clock. If this is not approved or denied, it is automatically approved.
What's the date on that again, Jerry?
29th. That's what I wrote, Jared, August 29th.
August.
29th, yeah, I was going to say it's either the 22nd or the 29th. I would have to look back at
So
the
the
record.
council meets again in 2 weeks approximately?
16.
16th, so you would certainly have time to.
So let me, again, ask the question again. Do you have other questions? Are you ready? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to burden everyone, but, co-location is the heart, the centerpiece of what we're trying to decide here. And I wanted to direct people, because I do have a question for the applicants, because we're given the impression that SBA is unreasonable, maybe they're playing hardball on leases. But on page 42 of the packet, there's a co-location affidavit signed by Michael Doran. And I just need to understand what this means. The proposed tower will accommodate another carrier's telecommunications ground facility and tower antennas of comparable weight and size and surface area to the telecommunications facilities installed by applicant, so that'd be Harmony, on the tower within 6 months of completion of the tower construction. That seems very limiting. But I don't understand, because the tower company wants to have as many leases as possible. So I don't understand what that means. 6 months. Is this such a competitive business that everybody's watching? Every tower that's is going up in the state, in the country? And you can actually do that in 6 months if I'm T-Mobile. 6 months, if I'm T-Mobile, I got 6 months from the time that tower's done to get a lease on that tower. Is only AT&T going to be on that tower?
Well, hold on now here. So, Michael, first of all, you have not told us who you were or anything. So if you are going to talk, either step up to the podium or sit next to your representative.
I can say, I'll sit.
And I was going to answer that same question, but that I don't think he's understanding it properly either, but go ahead.
Okay, what I'm getting at is after the tower has been built.
Okay, excuse me, you need to put your name in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Doran, 1205 West Leland Avenue, Springfield, Illinois, and I represent Harmony and Buell Consulting. 6 months after the tower is constructed, we would be taking the applications for it.
Okay, for anyone.
For anyone, and if they, whatever size antennas, it just basically, it has to be in line with what that tower is built for, which is telecommunications.
Okay. Justin, you had a question.
I have a question for Attorney Sorensen. So is it this commission's responsibility to determine the economic burden or feasibility of the co-location versus not co-location?
It's this committee's responsibility to see if the requirements of a conditional use permit have been met. One of those conditions under the statute would be there has to be one of those three criteria to exist before you could give a conditional use permit for a new tower to be constructed. I mean, that's what the statute says. So if you determine, based on the documentation that's been presented to you, that one of those three criteria have been met, then you can support the project. If you determine it has not been met, that there is no economic burden that exists, then the presumption is co-location. If there is no, increased functionality, if there's no, I forget the middle one, but the one we're talking about is economically burdensome. Those are the ones you have to take a look at. Because again, you really have to look at everything that's in the conditional use permit, but that's the only one anybody's arguing about.
Right. The three criteria, it was the economic burden / feasibility, there was the functionality / services, and what's the other one?
Technical feasibility.
What was that?
Technically feasible.
Technically feasible?
Yeah, is co-location technically feasible?
Okay.
Or infeasible, if you want to use it that way.
Are you done, Justin?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Steve.
To that point, Steve, SBA has argued that it is technically infeasible. Or he's saying that co-locating isn't going to give any advantages in service delivery and that kind of thing. So I thought I remember from the last meeting, AT&T is currently at SBA's tower at like 179 feet or something, and they're going to move up to 220. I'm not a technical person, but that's 30 feet more up in the air. It seems to me that wireless, that would improve service.
Could I address that?
Again, that's the kind of thing that you have to decide based upon the record that you have, if those criterion are met. Now, you have to understand the applicant says that all three of those criterion have been met. They put it in that affidavit. They're telling you why those three should be there. Now, that affidavit stands unless there's testimony to the opposite of that.
I will let you talk, Claude, but
Can I ask one?
yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So if a new tower goes up, what would be the lease arrangements that the city could or would make based upon what we've done in the past? And the present one is a 20-year lease. Is that correct? That's coming to a conclusion.
I don't know where you're going with this, but the city is not going to be leasing anything on this new tower.
But don't we? Does the city have any authority over how long the provider has a lease in terms of working with the city? No. Okay.
No.
All right.
I mean, on the SBA tower, we do have Waupaca Online is on that, and we are leasing that from them.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no proposal to put something on this.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to let you talk, Claude, but I'm going to let Jonathan first here. Okay?
This is a question for Jared. Is it possible to just toggle through the maps that we provided you, only because it seems like the coverage question is being considered by the commission, and frankly, the maps, when blown up and you toggle between them, I think more clearly depict what that coverage difference is.
So I certainly can. I think I'll leave that up to the chair.
Yeah, I don't, Claude, you don't mind?
Well, I was told before I wasn't allowed to make a presentation. Now we're allowing them to make a presentation. So I'd like to have the same rules apply to SBA.
Well, this isn't hold on a second, though.
Yeah, it's a presentation.
Wow. Okay, so now I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Which, where would these be?
This is your flash drive. I wasn't quite sure where to go. For that. We can pull it up via email as well. If Aaron would like to pull up his email, he should be included in those. But this is a flash drive you included, I believe.
I don't know why it's not showing on that. If we could pull it up via email, that would be.
Would you mind pulling up your email, Aaron, or I can pull up mine?
Only because I know there were questions about whether or not
hard
there was a
to
difference in
see
coverage, and frankly, it's difficult to look at on paper.
Or I can go connect my computer to the presentation one.
Okay, so hold on a second here. Is the coverage an issue for the commissioners? Are we contemplating that as an issue? It isn't an issue for me. So
Well,
if it is, then we should take a look at it.
Well, I guess is the commission going to have to address all three? Because we've heard the comment, the language of or, but it seems like we could make our decision based on all three criteria being met and not just one. So that
You
means
could
it's-
make your decision on one or all three or 2 out of 3, but it is or.
So, do you want to see the maps, commissioners?
Personally, I don't. I looked at them already, and
We've all seen them.
Yeah, I'm okay not seeing them.
Okay, so we're saying that coverage is going to be better because they're up higher, just, we don't need.
Based on what we're getting from
Yeah.
Harmony, right? Absolutely.
Now, I can address that.
Sure.
I don't think any of the 3 criteria have been met. This tower was built, I don't know, 18 years ago, 20 years ago. SBA purchased it from the city. AT&T or its predecessor have been there all along. Therefore, it is technically feasible for them to operate from this site. They have been operating from this site all this time. SBA has entered into 5 separate lease amendments with AT&T since we took over in 2014 to accommodate their needs. We are willing to enter into the 6th amendment to accommodate their needs. This is technically feasible. It has been technically feasible for 20 years, and it will continue to be technically feasible. We've also submitted, as part of our package that didn't get discussed, an engineer's report, a structural engineer. We can extend the height of the existing tower. There is structural capacity to allow that to happen. If the issue is an extra 30 feet, we can give them an extra 30 feet. That's possible. So I don't think that the technical feasibility standard has been met. I don't think the functional coverage has been met. I mean, it strains logic to think that something 100 feet away is going to provide substantially better coverage, especially when we can reach the same height that they want. This is all about economic burden. And again, to me, this is a Pandora's box. If the city allows this, there's nothing to stop AT&T from coming back from 10 years from now and saying, Harmony's not playing nice with us. We've got another deal with XYZ company. We want to build a 3rd tower 100 feet away. I don't know how you would stop that if you allow this one.
So, anybody else have any other questions? Mike, maybe this is important, it seems like it's important to me, but, and Steve, stop me if I'm out of line here, but
I will.
are you willing to share with us what the cost is to put that tower up?
A new tower?
A new tower?
Depending on soils and things like that are unknown at this time, $250 would be a fair estimate. Steel and all, leasing and the equipment. So, yeah. So AT&T is going to great length to. They're just not taking this lightly. They've tried to work with SBA. They don't want to play fair, and this is happening. I always like to bring up.
Well, Mike.
Yep.
Just stick to the question you
Okay, I'll stop there.
And that, for the record, 250 means 250,000?
Sure, 250,000.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to make a good record.
Sure, thank you.
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
In that same vein, can we ask you what your annual lease rent payment is?
I'll let you answer that. Oh, SBA who does not allow us to discuss that. They have a non-disclosure. So
Wait a minute. You're asking for the lease payment from AT&T to Harmony. This has nothing to do with SBA.
No, I think he was asking about SBA.
Well, he wouldn't know about that. He doesn't work for SBA.
Okay.
no, but I do understand that we're not able to discuss that under a non-disclosure agreement.
Yes, I'm waiving the non-disclosure. Go ahead and tell us.
Right.
What's the
Well,
difference?
my thought was, since we're trying to determine one of these 3 criteria, the mayor asked about the cost of the tower being put up, if we knew what the rent was, it helps determine a financial burden. But if we can't find out that information, then we can't.
Okay.
That was my intent.
Could I mention again that this lease was originally executed between the city and AT&T's predecessor? All SBA did was stepped into those shoes and took it over. So you've got the original lease somewhere in your files.
I'd like to address that question of yours. And all I can do is say the general leases 18 years ago were about $1,800 a month at 3% per annum. So that is where the lease is sitting right about now. Which doesn't take into account adding equipment over the years, which ups the rent. So I'm sure that rent up on that tower is pretty considerable.
Mayor, do we need to call the question somewhere along the line here?
What, you have every right to call the question.
I'm just asking. I don't want to cut anybody off, but
That's what I'm trying to do, is just make sure that everybody has the opportunity. I think we are all, and I don't want to start giving a speech here either, but we've all had the opportunity of, we've had 2 meetings now to hear both sides. I have a pretty good feeling that we have all made up our mind, and without giving our personal opinions on whether we think there should be a second tower in Waupaca or not, that's not the question really here. The question is that, does it meet the conditional use requirement, the city's conditional use? And so that's what it really comes down to. So if you are, and we're always amenable to this, but if you are ready to vote, I more than welcome a motion, one way or the other here. Anybody would like to make a motion?
I will move that we approve the conditional use permit as it's been provided.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Velker, second by Commissioner Wayne, that we approve the conditional use permit for Mount Tom, recommend to council the conditional use permit for Mount Tom LLC is the owner, along with Harmony Towers LLC.
Mayor, the purpose for making the motion is, with the additional information of that tower on Churchill Street conditional use permit being expired, we're not going to have a proliferation of towers, at least in this period of time. And so that makes why I would support this application, because the other one goes away. And I don't know if legally, if we have to do something at council, Steve, to make that conditional use go away, we should probably do that. But
Yeah, certainly the council can do that at its next meeting. Plan Commission can't do that.
right.
Okay, so the motion has been called, so, and we have a first and a second. So if you have discussion on the recommendation of this conditional use permit, I'll certainly listen to that.
Just to process, we are recommending to council, so council still has a kick at the cat here. I can't say that, sorry. Okay, still has the final decision making.
Yeah, you have to remember that all you're doing is saying, we've listened, we believe it's bad or it's good, or we think you should be proven up. If you vote not to submit to council, council can still take it up.
Got it.
Right. Okay, are you ready to vote? If you're okay, I'm gonna just do a roll call vote here real quick, and I'll start with you, Henry.
Aye.
Pat?
No.
Justin?
Aye.
I also get to vote on this. I'll vote aye. Mayor Smith votes aye. Ivan?
Aye.
Eric?
No.
Angela?
Aye.
Okay, so we have
5 ayes.
5 ayes, 2 noes. Motion carried. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Steve, thank you. Appreciate it. I actually think we're okay, right, Jared, for the rest of the night, Steve?
Yeah, next is just we have a site plan for Harmony Towers. It is just going over the site plan requirements.
Oh, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'd have to approve the site plan.
Yeah, let's go there then. I gotta find it here quick.
78.
All right, so we have a site plan review, and this would be, we're looking for approval tonight on this same property. Now, this site plans are approved at the planning commission level, so it stops here. So if you recommend the site plan tonight and vote on it, it would be approved here.
Subject to them getting the conditional use permit.
Okay, thanks. Good point. It goes back and forth a little bit, doesn't it? All right, Jared, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this is now the site plan for the proposed Harmony Tower, mobile tower, conditional use that was just voted upon. So this just goes into depth on our site plan requirements, the height, other elements. The only concern that was reported in here was in relation to open space. So with it being still that R1 zone property, we do still have open space requirements. That is placed as a condition that it shall be required that the 40% of the lot does remain open, planted with grass. So whether the small parking area would need to be adjusted. Currently, it was proposed that a lot of the equipment area or future potential equipment area was just going to be gravel. I would require that in between those equipment areas and in the interim before equipment area or equipment goes in, that those are vegetation, remain vegetation. When the time comes that new equipment comes in, there will be new applications that are submitted. We will review the site plan, ensure open spaces continue to be met. At this time, with it just being a tower and I think one equipment space being used, there should be no issue with that. But it is in the condition of the report. So that's really the big one. Other than that, just the trees in the right of way shouldn't be removed unless approved by Public Works. Planting of a minimum of three trees along the street yard, or keeping 3 trees along the street yard would be required. And then just exterior lighting, making sure there's no spillover into adjacent parcels. This would be recommended for approval.
Thanks, Jared. And Michael, as long as you're still here, could you just use the microphone real quick here and just let us know that you're okay with the conditions that Jared has listed?
Yes, we're okay with the conditions.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Anybody like to make a motion?
And just for the record, the applicant has indicated they're okay with the conditions. Just want that under those words.
Just a question, assuming that the council okays on the final on this, what kind of a time frame are they looking at in terms of construction?
When they start? Do you want to address that, please, too? And again, you have to use your microphone.
The applicant.
So this is coming from Michael, again, the applicant.
Thank you.
The applicant, I think we're looking at second quarter, 2023.
So what month are we looking at?
Yeah, that's hard to really pin down, but second quarter is usually what I usually hear. So,
And about how long would the construction take once it's underway?
well, about a month to put it up. Yep.
All right, anybody else have any questions of Michael before he has to jump up?
So your current lease with SBA goes into 2024, so you're going to have 2 lease payments.
It's not his current lease.
Wow.
It's AT&T's
I'm sorry.
current lease.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. It's all right.
So I guess
I know it's a little
my
confusing.
point is they really want to do this if they're having to double up leases.
Right? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the site plan review contingent upon conditional use permit approval by city council.
I'll move to approve the site plan review.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Velker, second by Lesage, that we approve the conditional use permit, or I'm sorry, the site plan review contingent upon the conditional use
Thank you.
permit being approved by the city council. Any further discussion? Just a voice vote here. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against, say no. Motion carried. All right. We're done with Mount Tom now?
Correct. So just the conditional use will be at council then
On
for
the
a,
16th.
for a final decision on the 16th.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Could you eject their jump drive? Thank you for the reminder. I have forgotten.
Get opinion from Attorney Sorensen. Can we just yank that jump drive out?
What did you say? I heard my name down there.
We're, he was being funny, sorry. In a Baron's way. All right, next up, we have, and Jared, I'm assuming you're gonna be in contact with Harmony and
Yes, so I
SBA for that matter.
yeah, so I will, I guess typically I would just reach out to Harmony and let them know that, I guess they were here though.
Yeah.
But I will follow up and just let them
Times and
know.
everything.
Yep, the times for the next meetings.
Okay.
Yep, I can certainly do that.
All right. Okay, let's move on to site plan review for Fable Lease LLC at 251 Grand Seasons Drive. And we do have, Scott Fable in the audience. Scott, I'm gonna apologize that you have sat here a long time, but we're gonna get to it forthwith here. So, Jarrett, you want to?
Yeah, of course. So this is, again, another carryover, so I will keep it short. If there's additional questions for Mr. Fable, he is more than welcome to answer those per your request. So again, he is looking to expand his business onto an adjacent parcel. He's looking for additional land to park some vehicles on, whether they're waiting to be brought into the shop, or waiting to be picked up by the individual that brought them in. He has added quite a large expansion to this adjacent parcel where he currently has a building in his current business, which has yielded just not enough room for parking of the vehicles. So he has purchased the adjacent parcel. He is looking to just use the front portion as shown in his development plan. Some of the issues that were brought up at the last meeting were in regards to landscaping and paving. Just paving the expansive area was going to be somewhat economically burdensome. So looking to work with him on this, sat down with him. This is still a public or private parking lot land use, but there is somewhat of an outdoor storage element where maybe it's going to be used for a little bit more infrequent, just outdoor storage of a trailer, a truck, or as such. So in front of you, there is an item, and this can be added to the online, so it can be seen by others. I can add both the updated staff report and the visual. We sat down and looked at what exactly would be required to be paved, as it is an essential part of that parking area. That was determined to be the entryway, which would be required per our DPW anyways. The language in the condition for that would read, pavement shall be required at the egress and ingress point off of Grand Seasons Drive. The pavement shall extend past the proposed rolling gate to ensure sufficient coverage so that gravel does not travel onto Grand Seasons Drive. Additional paving in this area may be required if substantial gravel is coming onto Grand Seasons Drive and causing a hazard or a nuisance. And that was understood by Mr. Fable. Additional parking or paving would be required along a frequently used driving path, driving lane from this parking area to his current business and parcel. This, and then also a minimum 60-foot section to accommodate the parking of trucks as they're waiting for pickup. Just again, a more frequently used parking area in and out. Again, to try to eliminate dust from this area, paving the frequently used area of the parking lane off the driving section. So just read the condition for that. Pavement shall also be required on the proposed 30-foot driving lane leading to and from the adjacent property, as well as a 60-foot wide minimum area spanning from the 30-foot driving lane to the end of the parking area adjacent to Grand Seasons Drive. The applicant may pave more than this if they wish, but the 60-foot minimum would be required just to accommodate the full width of a truck if that is parked there. A larger truck. And for the rest of the area, again, looking at that as somewhat of a outdoor storage element, maybe some longer term storage. So the requirement or reading for this condition states, the remainder of the parking area will be considered as an outdoor storage element of this parking area at this time and does not need to be paved. If such status changes as determined by the city, if it is being used very frequently in and out traffic consistently, the city can reevaluate this. The applicant may be required to add additional pavement. To ensure the unpaved area remains as dust-free as possible, the applicant shall be required to treat the unpaved area as frequently as necessary to mitigate dust, which was agreed upon and talked about already. Obviously dust mitigation is required throughout the lifetime of the use. It's not something that just goes away after 10 years. And then with that outdoor storage element, additional screening is going to be required. Also talked about the condition in the report reads, given the outdoor storage element of this land use, it shall be required that the applicant/developer plant a full landscaping buffer along the entirety of Grand Seasons Drive, along the length of the northwest side of the parking area and the first 30 to 50 feet of the southeast side of the parking area off of Grand Seasons Drive. Landscaping shall consist of both high and low vegetation, trees and shrubs. Landscaping shall be completed within 1 year of approval and shall remain in a living state per our ordinance. The buffer shall be continuous and offer sufficient screening and dust protection. It was discussed that if there are additional trees and things planted there already, that can be incorporated in. That just needs to be outlined in the landscaping agreement or in the landscaping plan that's submitted to us. And to go along with that landscaping plan, another addition, the applicant/developer shall provide the city with an updated landscaping plan and site plan to reflect these changes. So just, again, for our record to show that these things are changing. Since I neglected to print out the full copy, I will point out some of the other additions that are different. Just so you are aware. So there was a section removed of condition 7 that just simply stated an identical item to the landscaping requirement that was now added. So it was just redundancy. And then the only other item that was really changed was in regards to the DNR permit. So it's just asked now that the applicant provide the city with all approved DNR permits. There's no justification needed to why the one was chosen and why one was not for the 40 to 80% TD total. No, it's not TD. Yeah, TSS. So that's the only other change. All others are near identical in the meaning and their intentions. So I guess recommended approval with those changes. And I can, of course, put those up on the site and email the applicant those exact conditions that were being approved tonight.
Okay, and again, this is a site plan, so it's approved at this level tonight, if we decide to approve it, right? And Scott, Fable, you've had an opportunity to discuss this with Jarrett, and you're okay with all the, you're okay with all the items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Jared and I sat down earlier in the week this week and looked over how we could basically work it out together that we are paving a portion of the lot and the drive to the other property. And that way we'll be able to reduce the amount of dust that's going to be generated and try to start with that and see if, along with, maintaining the gravel that's put in there with some form, of a dust control product on it, a couple times a year or whatever it takes is fine with me. So I think we're in agreement.
All right. Any commissioners have any questions? Anybody would like to make a motion?
I just have one
Yeah, go ahead,
statement.
Eric.
I know from experience that somebody put a bunch of gravel down on their driveway, and every spring, because of the plowing, it was all off the driveway and on the grass. I'm wondering, with the plowing, could end up with that same issue. Have you considered that you're going to have a big mess in the spring?
I have. We have been before we added on last year to our existing lot across the way. Our lot there was gravel in the back end of it, and we've been plowing that lot a long time, so we've been aware of how much can be pushed all the way, and you have that happening on the outside of the property, but we've learned that near there, you've got to do some back plowing and handle that right. So I don't want to either lose all my gravel and so the plowing guys have gotten pretty good at knowing how to deal with that issue, so that we're not spending a lot every year to either put more gravel in or to get all that back on the lot. So it is a minimal amount that I would say is my concern just as well, that I'm not having to put too much expense back into that every year and maintaining a lot of gravel.
Sounds like you know what you're doing. So I will make that motion to approve that site plan.
Thank you.
Second?
Motion by Olson, second by Wayne, that we approve the site plan review for Fable Lease LLC at 251 Grand Seasons Drive with the conditions that Jared has listed.
Yep.
Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. Scott, good luck.
Thank you,
Get it
sir.
going.
Thank you very much.
All right. Glad we could work it out.
Thanks, Scott.
That's the last
Yeah? Steve, thank you.
Safe travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need anything, holler.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I guess we'll let you know if we think we might need some representation on the 16th. So,
Yeah, I'm going to prepare a memo for you for that meeting
okay,
based on what I heard tonight.
okay.
So, and if you need me, I'll be here.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's go to discussion items. We have discussion on permitted uses, conditional uses, and prohibited uses. Jared?
Yeah, so this one was brought forward a couple meetings ago now. Again, it's a bigger ticket item, so I just wanted to bring it back, remind everybody to take a look at it. If there's no comments, great. We've done a great job. If you have any comments, concerns, please just let us know, and we are happy to take a look at those, discuss those further internally as staff, and bring back, our reasoning why we're doing for it. And if you don't agree, you can tell us again at that time. So,
What sheet are we looking at here?
I apologize. So this starts on page 293.
Thank you, sir.
Jared, sorry, Mayor.
I didn't, I was only going to say that, or ask Jared, these are, what you have in red there, these are the things that you and I have talked about?
Yep, those are the things you and I have talked about, and I know I will get back together with you at some point here and do this a final review before we bring it forward in any sort of official capacity format. But yes, the ones in reds are the ones we have talked about. Just combining certain elements of the For an example, crockery stores, that could just be classified as retail general. I don't think we'll ever have a need to classify a true dish or pot store in the cooking sense. Sorry. Clarify that.
For now. Took me a while.
So, things like that.
Same question.
Yeah, department stores. I mean, it's again, it's retail general. It's whether it's a TJ Maxx or a everyday hometown. It's kind of really the same thing. So things like that, we're trying to combine, make it easier, just make it simple. Coffee, tea, juice, and smoothie shops. It's a restaurant. And a lot of these, like for that one in particular, it was a conditional use. Where we would just be going through the motion of approving the conditional use because I guess I myself couldn't think of any conditions that could reasonably be put on that land use per the state's requirements that they make you go through. So for a conditional use. So it's really cleaning up, reducing conditional uses where they're not necessary, making sure there's certain things in certain, in the correct districts. So I know there were a couple land uses in here that we did add to accommodate certain land uses that are no longer, and we do not think will be coming back. So getting those out of that district, making sure that they are like mobile home sales or mobile home sales. So that was allowed in our B3 district, which is really close to a lot of our neighborhoods. So something that we would want our mobile home sales to be maybe in the industrial park. A little bit more open space away from residential, a little different than just going and selling a house that's established than having a bunch of mobile homes parked on a single lot. Things like that. Just trying to go through, clean it up, improve readability, understandability, and efficiency when going through this. So, again, it's a lot to look at, so I welcome any questions. Again, probably we'll sit down with the mayor again, go over these. We've been trying to go over one by one, make sure we understand what each one is, and make those changes as we see could be beneficial to the residents as well as staff in terms of staff time. So,
All right. So, Henry, if you still have a question, remember that my question was really short and I got a long answer. So be careful.
All right. You addressed some minimum lot widths, square footage, I think, in residential, if I remember.
Oh, in the lot standards discussion?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think, and I guess.
So, and then just to clarify,
That's a different item.
that'll be the next item. But we can certainly talk about it now. I have no preference. I can talk about it
Is
all
that what
day
you
long.
want to talk?
Yeah.
You're on the line.
So we're moving on to the next one right, with this question.
Okay, Henry.
Keep the meeting moving.
No, so if we're moving on, I'll just say if you have any questions, comments, just shoot me an email.
Yeah, and let me just say something really quick here. We had Jeff, what was his last name again? Sanders. Go through and we did a lot of these things with Jeff's recommendations and so on. And now we're digging into it a little bit deeper here to make sure that it fits the city of Waupaca. So I don't really want to just base it on what Jared and I thoughts are. We do need your help. But
And I'm
we're
happy
trying to simplify it for you.
And I'm happy to sit down. I know we've obviously sat down for probably 4 hours now, and I won't do that to any of you. But we can certainly sit down and go through any specific topics or a section or, whatever we would need to go through if you have questions.
Let's go on to the next item then. Discussion of lot standards. Henry, do you want to ask us?
Yeah, generally they're getting more dense, and I think that's where the trends are going. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Because we've got infrastructure in a lot of places when people do the infills or something, but even with new developments, developers are going to be able to do more on the same amount of ground, if I'm reading that correctly. And I think that's good because that maximizes the infrastructure we're putting in. So I guess my comment was on that. I think the overall push is to get more density in residential. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. Okay. Yeah, Increased density, you know, we have the utilities, we have hookups. Justin loves when more utilities hookups are added. It only helps him. So, you know, the other element too was affordability. So we're seeing right now housing prices are just continuing to skyrocket. And I know decreasing a lot from 8,500 square feet to 5,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but I guess, you know, in the end, if you see a savings as a homeowner, you're going to be all the more thrilled. You know, I myself live on a lot that is less than 5,000, and I'm perfectly content with it. I have no issues. You know, stormwater is never an issue for us. Well, it is, but that's our own fault. But generally, it's not an issue if the proper grading is there. You know, so it's I guess based off experience, based off of trends. I went to a League of Wisconsin Municipalities meeting, and they posted this as well. You know, just taking a look at those traditional neighborhoods, eliminating nonconformities. You know, they made a good point of, you know, pick one of these substandard lots and go take a look at it. And I bet you driving past, you really won't even know that it's a substandard lot. You know, it's just another lot that you see typically in the city. You have no issue with. So why are we trying to make people have bigger lots? You know, if they want smaller lots, if developers want to, you know, have a couple more affordable, smaller lots, why not let them? And if honestly, it's market driven in a way too. I mean, if the market changes and, you know, there's people that want half-acre lots, that's what a developer is going to propose. So we're not limiting the maximum, which there are some communities that do, and that is something we certainly could take a look at if it becomes a problem in our community, you know, with sprawl and other things like that. But, you know, this is just, again, more allowances for the developers, for property owners, and eliminating non-conforming lots that don't need to be non-conforming.
So a question?
Yeah, go
So we're looking at changing the lot sizes, but we're not touching setbacks, right?
So setbacks were changed a bit. A couple for the side yard was just more cleanup. You know, we had one for a 1.5 story or fewer and one for 2 stories or more, which just residents found extremely confusing and frustrating, and it was just more of a headache than anything. So cleaning that up, and also the street yard, reducing that to 20 feet instead of 25 was a recommendation, and that is simply because a lot of the, you know, when you decrease the lot size, obviously your building envelope gets smaller. So in order to have a little bit more space, and, you know, it is 5 feet, so it's not that much, whether you think about it like, oh, that's, you know, closer to the road, or that's more building area. It's really not that much, but it does help when thinking about the building envelope.
Nothing dramatic, nothing drastic. I mean, as far as the setbacks.
No, and
Okay.
what was your street? Where do you live?
State Street.
State Street, yeah, State Street. Actually, we're going 0 foot setbacks, so they can
Oh, wow.
Perfect. Just on State Street.
just State Street.
Steve would say, for the record, that's a joke.
Thank you for that clarification, Andrew or Aaron.
Good thinking. I got a comment.
You go.
Okay. I thought we talked last time we were going to look at a maximum lot size.
I thought it was discussed that we could. I didn't know it was a recommendation. I can certainly take that recommendation.
And I could be dreaming, but I thought we talked like, let's see what's out there, and then we could go from there as far as maybe directing you a certain way.
Yeah, so minimum lot or maximum lot size would really come into play on the R1 and R2 parcels. R3, you really wouldn't want to do that because you're getting into multifamily.
Correct.
Even though we do still allow single family, so shouldn't say it on the record, but there's a way around it. But really, you're trying to regulate the smaller lots, or the making sure single family stays on a more condensed lot and doesn't go buy 40 acres and plop a house right in the middle. You know, that would be the reasoning for that.
Or buying up multiple lots and building it in the middle of one.
Correct. Yeah.
I remember the discussion too, so you weren't.
So I just missed that.
Daydream a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Call you on
What?
it. What's the time limit, Eric, on when you forget, when a meeting is done?
Yeah, we're
Right
all
now.
We're getting there.
So, so I will do some research and I will add that in for the next time, and we'll bring it back for another discussion. And it's nothing that needs to change now, but again, just taking a look as we, especially when we look at River North, making affordable lot options in there too is always a benefit. So, will have that as a note.
All right, thank you. Anybody else on lot size standards or anything? Okay, the big item here obviously will be when we start looking at phase 2 and 3 of the River North project. We'll really be able to see what those should look like at that time. All right, let's go to the reports.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep this real short. Actually, the internal site plan report that you see here today is the exact same you saw at your last meeting, so there really is nothing new. The July report is new, still continuous permits coming in. Had a comment from our building inspector today that it's not slowing down, and she doesn't foresee it continuing to slow down. So on that same note, we are hoping to get another building inspector in here full-time and rehire for that position sometime soon. We are going to be reposting it coming up here. Try to reach more credentialed individuals and see if we can get more interest in the city. So that is coming up. Code enforcement, no record or no consistent records here. There's one. A lot of the code enforcement I have not sent to. We're still working with our past building inspector, code compliance officer. She's helping us input stuff. I'm just not bothering, I guess, to try to have her input all this extra information. I'm just trying to take care of some of the immediate zoning things, garbage, debris, complaints, just internally trying to get letters out as soon as I can. So those are not in the report, but there is a little extra code enforcement being done that you don't necessarily see here. Case type is zoning. No, so Young Drive 2275, I believe that was an unpermitted structure. So they came in and got the permit.
Pergola?
Quite possibly. I don't remember.
I'll stop.
But really from that, there was one other item that was on the agenda. And that was just an update on all of the homes that we've applied or we've approved grants for. Our economic development specialist was unable to get that together before this packet went out. So I will have it in your next packet, as well as we actually requested a update from East Central Regional Planning Commission on our, actually I believe you requested it, Mayor, of all of the Main Street bounce back grants we've received. So we've received, they have a record of 13. So that's really great to see. So I'll bring that forward as well for your guys' viewing. And then maybe you guys can take a field trip and look at all the businesses that received money. So great investment that's went into our community. I think 13 would equal $130,000 of money that's just come into our community. So it's great to see. But those will both be included next time.
I think the state of Wisconsin put some more money in that program, didn't they?
They did. Yes,
That's
they did.
awesome.
Yeah, and East Central got, they started out at, if I remember right, they started out like at 600,000 and now they're up to like $1.3 million. So the city of Waupaca has actually done pretty well for its size.
And I think,
Bounce back.
Kevin with East Central said Waupaca County as a whole was like the top recipient
Really?
out of all the counties.
That's nice.
So,
Yeah, that's great. Okay, anything else? Jarrett, anything else, commissioners, for the good of the meeting? All right, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Henry, second by Eric, that we adjourn till our next scheduled meeting, which is Wednesday, September 7th. Subject to call. The Brewers are ahead 4-0 in the top of the second. Have a great night, everybody. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. We're adjourned at 6:50 PM. Have a great night. Drive safe.
Let's see here.